Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here along with Pete.
Yo, what up?
And today, guys, of course, we're getting down to it. The trade rumors coming in. There's a lot of trades that could potentially happen. We also got a little more basketball talk to talk about. So let's get started.
James. LeBron James all the way in.
And here comes Simmons the other way. 3-on-2. Simmons eludes the defender and lays it in with that. Certainly the length altered that shot. How did it go with steps?
As a Knicks fan, because God bless America, do I want to see this guy go. Joakim Noah.
Joakim Noah.
He is in hot water with the Knicks organization.
Yeah.
Got in a big fight with Jeff Hornacek for getting pulled in the fourth quarter of a game recently. I'm actually not sure which game it was. I really don't know. Just because I don't even remember him ever. When he's on the court, it's almost like my mind goes blank because I just don't want to see him out there at all. But he still has 3 years and $50+ million on his contract. Like, he might be the second worst contract in the league, other than Luol Deng.
It might be, like, to be honest, I think it might be one of the worst. That may be going a little too far.
It's one of the worst contracts ever. It really is. It's so terrible, but they had no idea how bad he was going to be and how injured he was going to be when they got him. Mm-hmm. Wow. Which sucks as a Knicks fan because the potential where Joakim Noah was when we had him was an interesting move, but just terrible. You know, in retrospect, it's so terrible. But the rumors are they're trying to trade him. Mm-hmm. Who would come out and get Joakim Noah for the contract he has? They would have to give up. They would have to give up every valuable asset we have to get rid of him. You know?
Yeah.
And the thing about him is, like, with Luol Deng, people are saying we will take Luol Deng if you give us Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, or Kuzma, right?
Yeah.
The Lakers aren't doing any of those three things.
Yeah, they're just going to hold on to him.
The Knicks are a little bit more likely, like, if somebody said, like, we'll take Frank Ntilikina with Joakim Noah and we'll give you, like, some second-round pick or something in return.
Yeah.
But they're just not going to do it, you know? So I think even more likely, and this is rumored too, is Joakim Noah being bought out of his contract, which is equally as hard to handle because that's a ton of money just to give to a guy to go sit or just to go sit at home on his couch. What do you think, Bernie? What do you think they're going to do with him?
I think, like you said, they're probably just going to buy out his contract and just get him the hell out of there. He's obviously not helping the team. He's actually hurting the team. I think we kind of saw the decline of Joakim Noah in his last couple of years in Chicago, where he only scored like 4 points a game in the last year in Chicago. And then he went to New York, obviously on that big contract, thanks to Phil Jackson. I just don't see any possible way that Joakim Noah at his age, you know, he kind of was a guy that like we talk about, they peak at certain times and then they also decline early. Some people have a prime of, 5-8 years, where others have maybe a 3 to 2 season prime.
Yeah.
And that was Joakim Noah in some aspects of having a good prime.
Because he really had a couple incredible seasons in Chicago where he was easily a top, maybe 7 or 8 player in the league.
I think in 2012, 2013, those years, he was an all-star. He obviously had
Defensive Player of the Year.
Defensive Player of the Year, 11, 12 points a game for both of those.
Yeah.
He was a really good player for the Chicago when they had Derrick Rose when he was healthy in his MVP form before all the knee injuries. Mm-hmm. But then it just kind of all of a sudden it just declined. And, it's not any fault of anyone but Father Time. Because like we talked about, Father Time wins.
Well, just injuries, unfortunate injuries. And honestly, I think Joakim Noah has a lot of like personality traits that don't necessarily go well with where he's at in his career. Yeah. Obviously, if he's so upset about being pulled in the fourth quarter of a game, he has no perspective of how bad he really is.
Yeah.
Because he is a terrible player in the NBA at this point in his career. And when you put his contract into perspective, too, he's one of the worst players in the league, just based on how much money he's making. So for a guy to be so upset that he's going to argue with a coach who's trying to coach a young team.
Yeah, exactly.
it just shows he doesn't have the perspective he needs to at this point in his career, which is even more reason just to get him out of there as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I've always talked about, just having a good vet on your team will do wonders for a young team. So like the Philadelphia 76ers have a good vet in JJ Redick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think they need one more, but with Joakim Noah, his personality just doesn't mesh well as like an aging veteran who's like, okay, I'm going to teach Kristaps the way of defending, or
like Willie Hernangomez. He doesn't want to teach these guys. He just wants to play. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, if he could just see where he was in his career and try and give his experience and knowledge to these players, it might help.
Yeah, kind of like Juwan Howard. If he was like a Juwan Howard type of player,
yeah, I agree.
Then there would be no doubt in my mind that they would keep him, even if he had a bad contract. You would still keep him. But now that he's with this terrible contract, and he's, causing scenes in New York.
Yeah.
Just buy him out, get rid of him, let him enjoy the money that he has, and let him go into retirement. I don't think anybody's really going to re-sign him unless he's rejuvenated again, which I just don't see it.
Maybe he is like a vet minimum, like just off the bench defensive guy. But even then, he's just not worth anything,
Mm-hmm.
So let's get out of the Joakim Noah mired, awful storyline, because that, as a Knicks fan, hurts me to my very core. Let's just finish talking about the Knicks really quick, because there's a couple other players I've heard some rumors about.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, let's talk about Jarrett Jack, just because I haven't heard any rumors necessarily about him being traded to any specific team, but I've heard that he is available and that there are certain teams who would be interested in acquiring his really cheap vet minimum contract, seeing as he's been playing really good this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good move. If they could get something like, I don't even know what they would get, but just some sort of return out of Jarrett Jack, considering what he's given us this season and what we're paying him, not a bad idea. But then let's go to Courtney Lee, who's on I think like a $13 million contract for the next few years. He's heavily rumored to be traded very soon. One of the teams that has been inquiring about him pretty frequently has been the Thunder, which we talked about with, them with Avery Bradley. Excuse my forgetfulness. But I think Courtney Lee is much more attainable for them, obviously, because they don't need to give up anything of like great value.
Yeah.
But the rumor is that they were going to be giving up a first-round pick, like the 2022 first-round pick is the next one they can give up because they traded their first-round picks. I can't remember what that rule is called. It's something, but you can't trade consequential or consecutive first-round picks, excuse me. So I think that's probably a good return, and to get rid of that much money from a 32-year-old player and get a pick in return, that's like a very Celtics-esque move, Just get those assets in and you can really start building for the future. But if you think about just like our core youth players, we have a lot of good guys who can get more minutes if we get rid of those two players. Because the more and more this season continues on, the Knicks are not making the playoffs. Like, it's just not happening. All the, hopes and dreams of early 2017, 2018 NBA season have kind of diminished from my heart and soul. And I'm left hoping for a lottery pick and hoping that we can get rid of some of the big contracts from vets, like Lance Thomas. I want to get rid of him too. But then, like, we have Trey Burke and Frank Ntilikina, who are actually playing good, especially a guy like Trey Burke, who we bought really low on, who's not a bad player. He's still like 23. So just, give him some more minutes and get rid of a guy like Jarrett Jack, who we don't necessarily need for this season. But yeah, that's kind of all we need to talk about for the Knicks. They just have a lot of stuff going on, and they're one of the most active teams in this trade window so far.
Right.
Pause.